Forgot to add us. Good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this February the 22nd version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon. Hey.
What's up? Second Monday.
Second Monday.
We still got that slow music rolling. I was trying to fix it. Benny fixed it. He gave us a new song.
Did he? Well, yeah. It's not fixed.
Yeah.
No, it's not fixed. It's not fixed until it's re-uploaded.
Half the people fell asleep during that countdown. I almost did.
Yeah, if you're here and you're still awake, thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah, Dana. 2/22/22.
I know, isn't that funny?
I'm messaging on Facebook right now with Rob Cashel.
Are you?
Yeah, we're talking because Dustin Azure, our wrestling coach at EOU, won CCC Coach of the Year. Wrestling.
Oh, awesome!
And I'll tell you guys my conversation with him. It's pretty funny. A lot of people in our community know Rob. I mean, he was here for a long time. He's the commissioner of the CCC. He sent me a little snippet that said Dustin was Coach of the Year. I've known since Friday. And I said, awesome. He deserves it so much. And Rob said, yes, he's a good person and a hard worker. And I said, I'm loving the CCC right now. And he said, right now, you should always love the CCC. I said, I didn't say this, but I'm thinking to myself, I don't always love the CCC refs. No.
Are the refs sometimes worse than other refs?
I don't know. It's just,
It's just,
Well, so I feel like sometimes, like, maybe not so much in the CCC, but like in the country, right? Like in the NAI across the board, EOU gets kind of shunned on stuff because we're small in little Eastern Oregon, and we don't get the votes for like National Players of the Year or All Americans or stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is what it is. Speaking of that, though, tonight at EOU, women's basketball playoff against Warner Pack.
Good stuff. What time is that at?
I think that's 5:30. Let me check just to make sure. I know it makes for my afternoon to be really weird because I have a signing today as well at the high school. Brody McMillan is going to sign. It's at 7. So that kind of stretches it out a little bit. So Brody McMillan is going to sign live right here on EOA Live at 3:15 from the high school. And then at 7, EOU basketball. First 100 students are free. And usually for these CCC playoff games, students have to pay. So
cool stuff. Yeah. So, and it's 2/22/22.
A whole bunch of twos.
2/22/22. Yeah. It's funny. I'm streaming a wedding this afternoon. A little wedding, because they wanted to get married on 2/22/22.
And you're streaming it?
Well, to family, not all of the family. Yeah. To other. Yeah. It's a private stream. Yeah.
I was like, that would be kind of cool though to stream your wedding, but to EOA Live. But then it would always be there. And what if you got divorced? You'd have to look at it forever. And in America, there's a 65% chance that you're getting divorced. So I mean, not to wish any bad luck. Good morning, Brady. What's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm interested. If you're watching, let us know what device you're watching on and which platform. Facebook, YouTube, Roku, and then also which device. I'd like to kind of start. I'm interested in knowing.
How are they going to let us know if they're watching on anything but besides Facebook?
That's a good point. So maybe, I don't know. Just give us some feedback on to what you like to watch content on. Is there something you wish we were on also? We're everywhere almost, I think, but all right.
Well, they could always email me too. Kyle at EOAlive.tv.
Yep. It's funny because I run into people, ran into somebody the other day, and it's like, yeah, we like watching you. And it's like, I mean, I don't know. We just have no information of who watches us unless they comment or
besides for Facebook.
Yeah. And we appreciate you regulars that are here almost every AM show. And That's cool.
I don't want to know who watches, because one of them could be, like a stalker or a psycho. Like, just
yeah,
stay out there and do whatever you got to do. It's all
because
good.
you and I are so hot, right? We're just
I'm not. I ain't saying that. You don't have to be hot to have a stalker, BC.
You don't?
No.
You could have a hater stalker.
You could have any kind of stalker.
Yeah, that might be more likely for us. All right. Well, hey, let's look at this miserably cold. I mean, it was 10 degrees or something like that.
Freezing.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
It's awful. And Tanya and I were coming back from Portland yesterday and got jammed up in that huge pile up westbound on top of it was just, let's see. So it was just right after Dead Man's Pass is where it was. It was kind of like between Dead Man's Pass and the way station, right? Just not far from the way station up there. Well, so anyhow, both eastbound and westbound lanes were closed. And so we spent the night in Boardman and then came back, got up at about 4. The alarm went off at 4 a.m. and to see if the roads were open. And
nope.
Yeah.
My question is, did you have to go to Portland this weekend? Like, was it a must go?
No, it was a family thing.
You knew that you looked at the weather. You knew it was going to be crappy on Sunday and Monday.
I don't. I grew up in Wyoming, man. It's like,
Wyoming, you lose half of your brain because you grew up there?
No, it's just like looking at the weather is pointless. I mean, if you gauged your trips on whether the weather was good or not, you would never go anywhere. And so I just figure on the winter, I'm going to drive on snowy roads. I mean, I care. I mean, if it's really windy, I mean, there are conditions. If it's blizzardy, if it's a blizzard, then that's a different scenario. But if it's just snowy roads, just means the trip takes longer.
We don't have a Gabe weather today.
No, Gabe's not with us. But we can tell you that it's cold.
It's crappy.
It's cold, and I think I saw where it's going to be cold for a bit. So
I didn't even scrape my window. It was so cold. I mean, it wasn't bad, but there was like little pieces of ice on there. I just kind of played kaleidoscope on the way to work.
I was over with my daughter, and they moved to Vancouver. They moved out of Portland to Vancouver recently, and Vancouver, Washington, and they're at about 400 feet in elevation. And man, we got snow yesterday. I mean, there was a ton of snow. I mean, a ton for them. I mean, there's probably there was enough that I could go out with John, my grandkid, and build a little snowman. It was about the size of a basketball, and then there was the size of a softball. That was all there was to the snowman. So
it's not bad.
Yeah, it's kind of a funky little picture because I took and gave him arms and eyes and a nose. And John asked, "Where's his mouth?" It's like, well, you just have to kind of pretend that it's there, And then I took grass. The grass is green. I mean, it's and made hair for him.
You took it like whole nother level. Did you have a carrot for a nose?
No, this was like
charcoal briquettes for eyes.
No, these were like little sticks. I mean, the whole thing was, the size of a basketball with a softball literally on top of it. So it worked. It worked out okay. I mean, it was really his first snowman experience. So
speaking of basketball, LHS won the GOL on Friday. Was that Friday or on Saturday? I'm sorry. And then that's boys, and the girls lost to Baker, but I'm pretty sure both will end up in the playoffs. The playoffs don't start until the 4th of March. So we'll keep everybody up to date on what the streaming is going to be for that. I'm working with the high school to figure out exactly how we're going to stream their playoff games. So
yeah. So for those of you that don't know, OSAA, thank you. OSAA, the organization that manages high school sports in Oregon, any games that are in the playoff, they've actually sold the rights to those games to NFHS, which is a national. I am not a big fan of NFHS. Can't say it. Anyhow, and so then the bottom line is for even the high school to stream their own game, there's about for basketball, I think it's a $250 fee. So it's kind of crazy.
It's nuts.
Yep.
But if NFHS decides to pick it up, there's no fee at all. But they aren't going to pick up a
right. But if NFHS picks it up, then it's a pay-per-view game.
It's a pay-per-view game as well. Yep. And they aren't going to pick up a first-round game with LeGrand. I looked at the schedule already. There's nothing up there. I don't even know exactly when we're going to play yet. I'm pretty sure we don't have to have a play-in game, because we won the GOL. So we'll see. As soon as I'll find out more today when I'm up at the high school.
All right.
I got some fun questions for Paul. Those ones we did on Thursday.
I did.
Yeah, we'll do a couple of those.
Yeah. So Paul, I'm sorry, I have no idea what's coming to you, but it won't be indecent.
No. Well, maybe a little. You never know. You never. I mean, remember when I told when I've made Scarfo blush a few times.
Yeah. Hey, how are you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you, both of you? And
what's
glad
up?
You're home safe, Brent?
Yeah, thank you. So Paul Anderes is one of the 3 Union County commissioners here in our area, and glad that you're here. Paul was a high school teacher for 20 years?
23 in LeGrand, yes.
23 years, and has an extensive background in forest management and that type of thing, which is just an awesome thing to have in your back pocket on behalf of Union County, because we have some forests around here.
Yes, we do. Yes.
I don't mean to date him, but he's teaching at the high school when I was there. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I graduated in 1997.
Yeah, but he was only, Paul started teaching when he was 12, though.
Yeah.
So it was,
of course.
He probably could have.
That may have been my first year here.
I think it was.
No, I take that back. It was about my second year at LeGrand. Yeah.
Yeah. What year was that?
97.
Well, my daughter was born in 94. I think we were here when she was just 1. So 95, 96, that school year was my first year. So it would have been the second that he's talking about.
Yep.
Yeah. We had Kevin Cahill on not too long ago, and he started teaching the year that I graduated from high school. And so, which was interesting. I think he graduated in 79. Yeah.
Long.
That's when I was born.
I know. That's why we remember all that. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Paul, catch us up on county business. What's going on?
All right. Well, if I may, awesome long weekend. Sunday, I went to a lacrosse game at Eastern. Don't understand it, but boy, it is a fast-paced game. And I'd never been to one before, and I just kind of wanted to see what it was like. Then my wife and I had reservations out at Hot Lake for the soaking. Great experience. They've done a really nice job getting that place back into its former glory. And then yesterday we were able to get to Anthony Lakes and make a few turns. So it really highlights how many great things we've got to do here. And then county-wise, I returned middle of last week from Washington, D.C. It was it's the annual NACO, National Association of Counties Conference, legislative conference. And it was really productive. We learned a lot about the Infrastructure and Jobs Act that had been passed, as well as the ARPA funds and ways that we could and couldn't spend those dollars that are coming to the county. Also had the opportunity to see my son in his workplace. He's interning for Congressman Bentz, and that was
cool.
fun to get into the congressional offices. Things have changed back there, and I don't know whether it's because of January 6th or COVID or both, but you can't just walk into the building. You have to be escorted into the building. But yeah, great to see him in his workplace and meet the people he gets to work with.
Very cool.
That's cool.
Have you, I mean, Cliff stops through here whenever he has a chance, I think. And I've had a connection with Cliff for several years, and is your son enjoying that? What's his experience? I mean, you know, he probably can't tell if he's having a negative experience. You wouldn't say that, but
well, yeah. He's not having a negative experience. Yeah. It's been very positive. He's, it was kind of interesting the way it all transpired, because the hot shots were done for the summer, somewhere around October 1st. And about 2.5, 3 weeks later, he was no longer in his fire clothes and living in the dirt. He was in a suit and tie in the halls of Congress, and it's been a really positive experience for him. For example, one of the first duties he had back there was Congressman Bentz has a picture of the entire freshman class from that he was part of, and my son would take the Sharpie around to the offices and get it signed by folks. And there's a representative from Colorado that had a Super Bowl ring, and he was able to wear that Super Bowl ring and get a picture. And so I looked on social media for this representative from Colorado, and up pops a picture from the day before Condoleezza Rice was wearing that same Super Bowl ring. So yeah, it's just been good. He's being a son of two teachers. He rarely, if ever, rode the school bus, and he went back there, learned the metro system very well, found a place to live, and it's been really a great experience for him.
Cool. And is this really his first extended time in a big metropolitan city like that? And
oh yeah, yes, very much so. Yeah.
And then into DC on top of it.
Yeah. And so, and I'm not familiar with the layout of the land back there. Every time I go back, I get turned around. But he still runs to stay in shape, and approximately a mile from his house is the Washington Monument. So he runs to the Washington Monument and back, and he's got 2 miles in.
Wow.
Yeah.
DC is, I mean, this has been years ago, back in the 70s. My sister worked for a mission, a gospel organization, a gospel mission in DC. And she was, you know, one of the things she found, I mean, it was a depressed area. And at that time, there were a lot of those kids that lived their entire life in a 4-block range. I mean, they literally could see the Washington Monument, but had never been to it, you know?
Yep.
And so it's just, I mean, it's a wild place.
Yeah. And I'm always I think it's because, you know, growing up and living in the West,
right,
there is so much space between everything. When you get back there and you stand on the steps of the Capitol, and the Washington Monument's right there, and the White House is right there, and literally across the street is the Supreme Court and the Library of Congress. I always think of it being much more spread out than it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the DC itself, the city, they're really struggling still with COVID. They're not nearly as busy. Some of the places, the restaurants that we had gone to in the past are completely closed. Their businesses are suffering, just like ours are, but I think maybe to a larger degree. The vaccine card mandate was lifted the day before we left. But I will tell you that every restaurant establishment that we went into, to include the hotel we stayed in, proof of vaccination with a government ID. You couldn't just hand them a vaccination card. They had to match, and they checked them pretty darn carefully.
So
every place you went.
Wow. So the So the mandate has been lifted, but the businesses are still requiring it. Was that?
No. Sorry.
No.
So on Monday actually it was a week ago yesterday, the mayor of Washington, D.C. came out and said, we're going to stop the masks shortly. But as of tomorrow, which would have been a week ago today, no more checking of vaccination proof. And again, anecdotally, my son said that the establishments across the river in Alexandria were packed, whereas the ones in Washington, D.C. were pretty open.
Huh, that's funny. I had a friend who was recently in Louisiana. What's the big city there? And
New Orleans, Shreveport.
Well, I don't. Where the Saints play.
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Okay, thank you. And
it's Mardi Gras time.
Yeah, and they were down there, and the restaurants were requiring vaccination cards, and only one of the guys was vaccinated, the other one was not, and so the one that was not just took a picture of his vaccination card, and he would just show it on the phone, and of course nobody's keeping track. I mean, and I think the restaurants at some point they're like, wow, we need the business,
And I will tell you, in Washington, D.C., it was that photo ID and the card, and they were vigilant about it.
Wow.
You didn't walk in anywhere without showing the card and an ID.
Wow. Well, all righty. Well, what else is going on here at home, Paul?
So we are in the process, I would call it early stages of making some decisions and having discussions. We had a work session last week on the ARPA money, American Rescue Plan Act. Union County will have over 2 years, $5.2 million to distribute. And part of it is to make our county whole again for lost revenue is one of the top things that they talk about in the uses of that. It's difficult decisions. At the early, we had a work session and just brainstormed ideas and projects and things like that. And being conservative, I would say that our list on the whiteboard would probably be in excess of $50 million, where we had $5 million to invest.
Right.
And some of them were great projects, and A, didn't fit the criteria, or B, for some other reason, fell off the list, and we're still working on that. One of the things that it's all public process, public meetings, even the work sessions, which rarely do we get folks watching, but they're more than welcome to. I think it's going to be really trying to make those right decisions and invest in the county for the long term. In addition to that, each of the cities get not a portion of ours, but get money from the federal government. So with the county 5.2 million plus, which each of the cities get, it's approximately $9 million that's going to be invested in the cities and the county of Union County. Again, weighty decisions that are going to have to be made, and you can't please everyone, which is sometimes difficult.
Is some of the funding going to be handed out? That's not the right time, but people apply for it as aid or grants for business recovery. And like you guys did one round of that. It's probably been 2 years ago now or something like that. Yeah.
That was December of 2020 when that went out.
Right.
And that was approximately $750 million. Whoa. $750,000. My mistake. So the answer to your short answer is yes. Okay. And it is a little bit different source of funding. Through the state of Oregon, during the long session last year in 2021, each senator, state senator, and state representative got funds to distribute. Each senator got $4 million, and each representative got $2 million for a grand total of $8 million for each Senate district. From that, Representative Levy was able to get us $500,000 that we earmarked for business support, much like the one we did before.
Okay.
And we're finalizing the application, and I don't want to say shortly because government moves slowly sometimes. But yes, there is going to be another round similar, not exactly the same, but similar to the last. And that was CARES Act on the last one, and this is ARPA on this one.
Got it. All right. Well, that sounds like, I mean, you're right. Can you give us a highlight of, I mean, if you can, any projects that you think might be hopeful for folks?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah.
And again, no decisions have been made.
Right.
We're still just kind of kicking things around, but things on the list are Public Works Department and getting some equipment there, some improvements to the airport. And both of those are in my portfolio, so they're front of my mind. Buffalo Peak, some improvements there. Infrastructure and equipment for the sheriff's department. And the other thing we've got out is a request to the department heads to say, hey, I mean, what else, do you really need? I don't imagine ever again in my lifetime that I'm going to see money that's we're able to invest in our county like that. But it's a little troubling because I never hear the term paying back or how we're going to fund this, but that's way above my pay grade, and I'm not going to turn down money that's available to our county.
Yep. Well, and I think a lot of counties are kind of in that same place. It's like, yeah, I mean, concerned about the money that's being printed to cover this kind of gifting, funding, granting, whatever you want to call it. But at the same hand, you guys have an obligation of figuring out how to make that work its best right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're not alone. The cities have those pretty weighty decisions as well to figure out what they're going to do with their funds and invest them in their communities as well.
So then every city in the LeGrand, Ambler, Union, I mean, how they all have received some funds?
Yes.
Yeah.
And incorporated. So in Union County, it's North Powder, Union, Cove, Elgin, Ambler, Somerville, and LeGrand. I don't think I missed anybody. So and it's based on population, is how they formulated it, and beyond that, I mean, what calculations they used, I don't know.
Yeah.
What'd Somerville get? Like $13.75?
I'm looking around for it. Okay. Somerville.
I didn't even know Somerville was a town.
It's an incorporated city. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. I don't have it in front of me. I've got.
I was just kidding.
I've got a lot of
many people
in
there.
front of me. One of the things that we've all been busy with is a short session and tracking bills and testifying on different bills as it affects. I didn't realize it was so legible, but behind me, I've got a list of a couple that I'm tracking. Representative Levy has been really supportive of House Bill 4154, which would provide $400,000 to the Union County Airport for Jet A fuel storage. Last summer, we got in pretty close to running out. A lot of that has to do with the new retardant planes or jets, and they burn a whole lot more fuel and more quickly than the prop planes did. And if you remember last summer when they had the fires just over in the Washington border and in Wallowa County, with those jets making hot laps and they were going through the fuel, and our total capacity is give or take 40,000 gallons. And in one afternoon, they were burning in excess of 16,000 gallons.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, and you want to make sure that we still have some on supply for life flight to make sure that they've got what they need for an emergency. So, yeah, one of our high priorities is getting that fuel capacity back up. And Director Wright's been really good about positioning us to make that happen. He's applied to the ODOT for a Connect Oregon grant, and fingers crossed on that one.
Is the Senate in session right now?
Yeah, both House and Senate. You mean federal or state?
State.
Yes. I've had a phone call with our senator this morning, and they are, and you can watch. Anyone can watch. It's fairly seamless. It's called OLIS, OLIS. You Google OLIS Oregon, it'll pop right up. It'll tell you what meetings are happening today. It's got a little video camera. You click on it, and you can watch it as they take testimony and make those decisions.
Do you feel like you testifying in some of these things makes a difference? Do you feel like, I mean, if we're squeaky enough, does it move the wheel? Does it move the gauge? I mean, I think I ask you that question every time in a different manner.
Well, I would have to say sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, you see, I've got lines through two of them. I testified on both of those, and both of them are now dead. They are not moving forward. 4154 is in Ways and Means right now, and most likely going to be moved forward. So I would say sometimes. It was the bill of Representative Levy's, that top one on the list there, 4154, for the fuel at the airport and they asked some really pretty pointed questions, and what are we going to do as far as keeping that fuel fresh? I mean, if we store that much and don't use it, and honestly, got a lot of good help from our airport manager and public works director, Doug Wright. He did a great job fielding some of those questions, and really, there's a format for testimony that I don't want to say it's a script, but it's kind of like that old 5-paragraph essay that we all learned. You're going to tell them what you're going to tell them. You're going to tell them, and then you're going to tell them what you told them. And yeah, and I mean, I've got one right in front of me that on my crib notes for it, and you identify yourself and who you're representing. Paul Anderes, Union County Commissioner, Chairman of East Oregon Counties Association, and then you thank the chairs of the committee by name. Thank you, Chairman Helm, for allowing this afternoon. Greetings to the committee members. I am for this or I'm against it. And then you give your reasons and then thank them and ask them for questions. So, yeah, it's, and part of it is time is very valuable, and you want to make sure you get your point across without rambling on. Which,
and you're able to do this with all via video?
That's the only way now. Yes.
Oh, okay.
The Capitol is open. I have not been down there, but I've talked to some folks and said, it's a little bit more normal where, I mean, other than there's much more security than there was in the past. And once you get through security, like it was in the past, you have the opportunity to knock on doors and have face-to-face conversations with representatives and senators.
Well,
I guess that's one thing that's good that came out of COVID is since everything had to go to teleconferencing in order to work. I mean, then the them having input via video, remote video, hopefully will be a thing they hang on to.
Yeah, I mean, like anything, it's got its pluses and minuses. But I will tell you, prior to COVID, I went all the way to Salem, had to stay overnight because of the time it was starting in the morning, testified on one of Representative Barretto's bills to do with elk depredation, and maybe 5 minutes, and then got in my car and drove home. So, I mean, 2 days plus a motel, it really took a lot of time for that short amount of testimony. Earlier, I had been down and gave a little bit longer testimony on another bill, and then went to the Senate side to basically give the same testimony, and the senator cut me to 2 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And had a PowerPoint ready to go, and walked up and looked at the screen, and it went blank, and I looked at the legislative aide and said, "Where's my PowerPoint?" And she said, "He just cut you to 2 minutes."
That
Go.
sucks. Hey, thank God humans are diverse, because I would just fall asleep doing stuff like that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's, with the video testimony, it's hard to tell. I mean, when you're sitting in a room with them and you have that eye-to-eye contact, and I mean, you have a pretty good idea on whether they're head down and they're on their phone or they're actually listening to you. But I think it's going to be the new norm for quite some time. So, and again, pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't read the person as well, but it saves a ton of money.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Although everybody that watches this show know when I'm checked out. They'll send me messages. They'll be like, "Dude, you're almost asleep."
Yeah. Well, and I will tell you, in different meetings I attend, a 3-hour Zoom it's tough to maintain. Rough. I mean, pretty soon you're checking your phone, you're looking at your email, and yeah.
You're turning your camera off, like.
Yeah. Well, and I just know some folks, they told me, if my camera goes off, I'm done. I may be half-heartedly listening, but I can't do it anymore. Which is, but at in-person meetings, you'd see people get up and go use the phone or get a cup of coffee or something, and so I mean it happens in live meetings as well.
Yeah, I think there's different levels of checked out. Like the person that's kind of looking at their other screen every once in a while, to like the person that's like very rarely looking up, to the person who just said screw it and just turned their camera off completely.
Yeah.
Well, there are some people that never turn their cameras on that I'm in meetings.
True.
This is true.
Yeah,
true.
It's like what? I showed up, I mean, I don't.
That's because they're in their underwear on their couch with their dog on their lap, drinking wine at 11 o'clock in the morning.
It could be. I don't know. It was funny because, we have a new guy that we're trying to bring on and train and stuff. And the other day I was talking to him. It's like, okay, dude, you have to look intentional. I don't want you. I mean, no, you just can't. And I wasn't pointing this towards him. I was just generally saying, yeah, I don't want my guys showing up looking like they pulled on the clothes that were right next to the bed the day before and coming on anyhow. So I was telling my son this last night, who is working remotely for a big tech company, and he's making more money than I ever did in my entire life, and probably double what I ever did in my entire life. And was telling him this, he goes, "Dad, that's what I do." It's like, it's like, well, right. Yeah, but you're working remotely. Nobody cares, Yeah. But anyhow.
Yeah. And it, so many things have changed. And I think part of that is that culture of, what's acceptable. And I think in general, people have gotten a lot better at using the technology that's available. A little bit surprising sometimes on people not turning their microphone on and getting halfway through whatever they're saying, and before people get a hold of them and say your mic's not on or you're muted.
Yeah.
I read a meme a couple days ago, and they were talking about scouting visits to colleges, and somebody made a tweet about this kid that showed up on a trip to visit a school being underdressed, and I mean, it's the new thing. Like, I agreed with it. You don't have to dress like you're going to church to prove that you're good at your job. I mean, it's that simple. Like, I agreed with it. Like a kid going on a visit to a college. Yeah. I mean, I would dress nice, but at the same time, that just because he dresses nice doesn't make him a good baseball player.
No.
Right.
No, and I guess, and that's why I use the word intentional. I mean, I just expect people to look like they thought about what it was they were going to do. I mean, that's what's important to me for our guys.
Right.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, in Washington D.C., I mean, I do own a suit, and I wore the suit. One day we were scheduled to have congressional visits, and that got upstaged, I guess would be the way to put it, because, and they didn't announce it very much prior to it happening, but President Biden came and spoke to us, as well as multiple cabinet members of his cabinet members came and spoke to us too. And I mean, all politics aside, if you get the opportunity to listen to a sitting president live,
yeah,
I think that's a great
You've
thing.
got to take it. Yeah, it doesn't matter who the president is.
Yeah, and 2 years ago we listened to President Trump, and when we got home, people are going, "How can you go see him?" And it's like, this is the president of the United States.
Right.
If I have that opportunity, I'm going to take it. Same with President Biden. At that point, you leave your politics at the door and listen to what they have to say. So, and really, you're right. Even at that convention, you saw every combination of clothing, from nice 3-piece suits. And I mean, I have a decent suit, but I mean, when I stand next to somebody with a hand-tailored, really expensive suit, I mean, you can tell the difference.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then, but my brother calls it the cowboy tuxedo that I wear fairly often. And that's a nice dress shirt, sport coat, usually my blue sport coat, jeans, boots, and I rarely wear a cowboy hat.
If you go all denim, it's called a Canadian tuxedo.
Yeah. But and part of it is reading where you're going and what the expectations are.
Well, and I think that's the case right now with masks too, and that will be the case for a long time. So even you're just sensitive to the people. I mean, if you see someone and they're masked up and they're cautious, then I mean, we do that at work. I mean, you read the people that you see, and you're trying to be courteous to them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kyle, do you have some of those questions?
Yeah.
Are we out of time?
Not yet.
No. We can come back to whatever you want to come back to after a couple of these. All right, we'll all answer this. Let's start it with this one. What's the best kind of cheese, Paul? The best kind of cheese.
Best kind of cheese? That one's fairly easy for me. Emmentaler out of Switzerland. I was fortunate enough when I was much younger. I was 18 years old to live and work on a dairy in Switzerland, and they made the I think they were, probably 2.5, 3 feet across, the great big wheels of Emmental, the traditional Swiss cheese. And one of my jobs on that dairy was to take the cans of milk on a horse and buggy to the creamery, weigh it out, and then they pour it and filter it, just a cursory filter.
Wow.
And then bring the empties back, wash them out, and then do it all over the next day. But yeah, that was so. Yeah,
soft or hard? Is it soft or hard cheese?
It's relatively hard. I mean, it's not like Parmesan hard, but it's about like cheddar. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of a nutty flavor. Yeah.
BC, what's yours?
I like sharp cheddar, sharp cheese. I had some the other day out at Kaufman's. They had something called like Amish butter cheese, and I got some of that. So, and that was one of my favorites, I think. So, but I like cheese that have some kind of taste to it.
I like Munster.
Ooh,
Munster.
My grandfather, that was my grandpa's favorite. So there's always good Munster in the fridge, and so I always just like Munster. All right, Paul, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen in someone else's house? You can take a second to think about it. If anybody watching wants to chime in.
Yeah, I probably some of the taxidermy mounts and how they were done. That would be it. And I can't remember where I saw this, but as you walked in the door, there was an animal, and it was like coming at you, and it was like, "Whoa, what's that?" I mean, you knew it wasn't real, but you're not expecting it. So yeah, probably
right.
some different taxidermy mounts.
Definitely, mine too. Like when people have their pet taxidermied, I've seen it, like a cat.
Yeah, no,
I've seen. No, that's just creepy and weird.
I tell you the weirdest thing I had. One time I had a guy give me a glass of water, and he had an ice bin in his freezer, and he gave, and then after I had been drinking the water for a little bit, he like pulls back the ice, and in the bottom of the ice bucket is a trout that is frozen. And, yeah, and his head
wrapped up or nothing.
No, wasn't. And there was so he'd filled a little bit of water, and then he'd put the trout in there, and the head and the tail were sticking out. And he goes,
"Oh no,
I'm gonna eat that thing someday. I'm gonna cook that thing up."
Wow. All right, last one. Paul, if someone asked to be your apprentice and learn everything that you know, what would you teach them? Not everything, but like let's say like the top couple.
I think I mentioned it earlier. You're never going to please everyone in this job in particular, and be a good listener. People generally, and I know I talk a lot, but some people rarely listen and talk all the time, or they're prepping for the next answer while that person's talking, and they're not actively listening. They're thinking about their response. So those would probably be a couple that I would, and I don't think I would use an apprentice or intern very effectively. I have a hard time keeping myself on track sometimes. And that's, it started out kind of as a joke, but it's not a joke anymore because I've said it so many times, but I keep my own schedule. And so far in the 4 years I've been here, I've missed one meeting and really embarrassed by that. But, and this is where kind of the joke came in. My life was run by bells for 32 years. I knew exactly where I was going to be at a very specific time. Almost granted there was assembly schedules and different things like that, but that for me was a really big adjustment to not know where I was going to be at a specific time on a specific day. But the phone, I've got things in there, reminders, and I really try to make sure that I don't miss meetings.
Yeah, let me touch on your comment right there, and then we'll get to this question. I talk about it sometimes. It's being a listener. It's just being present. It's something that I've really had to work on myself because I like to seek to be understood before I seek to understand. Mm-hmm. And just being present in the moment and showing people that you're present, which means like putting your phone down and looking people in the eye, repeating what they said to you. It's huge. Mm-hmm. And then for like me, like just one of the things that I learned, I was in a leadership class, and I think it was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey book. And the biggest thing was one of the biggest things was somebody of my size is sitting down when talking to people. Seriously, it was like one of the huge things, like, because when people have to look up to talk, they feel intimidated, like automatically. So it's like being present, repeating what people say, and it takes a lot of practice. It's hard. It really is. All right. Question from Darren Holdings. What are your thoughts on building a new jail?
I think that at some point in hopefully the not too distant future, we're going to need to do it. We've got some structural issues over there. I think measured steps and showing the need for it. looking at the partners that Sheriff Bowen has brought to the conversation, I think is going to be really important. I know people don't like to spend money on jails, but it's a fact of life that we're going to need a new one here before too long. Very supportive of it, as long as we, measured steps and do it right. Like I say, the concept that Sheriff Bowen has put forward is really pretty good. And I've got a quote up on my wall that kind of deals with jails and mental health. Do you mind?
No, that'd be great.
Sure.
County jails were not built to hold mentally ill people, and it is not compassionate to leave those with mental illness on the street. And that really hit home for me when I heard that. And if, and I'm not an expert in this, I'll tell you right now, but when I read the news of record, and there are so many of them, that mental crisis, someone in crisis, that we need to do a lot better job of taking care of our own people and making sure that we get them the help they need. And it's really not an easy subject to figure out, but I think that the plan that Sheriff Bowen has is a solid one. But again, things are incredibly expensive, and I know folks don't want to spend their money that particular way.
Yeah, it's been really a huge struggle in Oregon, especially. I would consider Oregon a pretty compassionate state for people with mental health compared to other states. But when Fairview closed, which was a developmental disability and mental health place in Salem, part of the problem was the way a lot of the bills were written and a lot of the laws. People with developmental disabilities were getting funding, and people with mental health weren't. So what they were doing was they were jamming people with mental health issues into developmental, like saying, like you're close to a 75. So 75 being the cutoff for developmental disability in Oregon, IQ wise. So you might be 100, but we're going to make you a 75 so you can get some funding. Mm-hmm. And that's not right, because people with mental health issues have just as many, if not more, challenges as people who are developmentally disabled.
Right.
And so those people just got kind of lost, through the system. And now we have all these people with mental health issues, and we don't have the right services in place. And I don't know how to fix it either.
Right. And we've had this discussion multiple times. I mean, the first line of defense often is the police or the sheriff's office. And great people, incredibly good at their jobs. I have the utmost respect for them, but they are not mental health counselors. And then you start looking at options, and is it admit them to the hospital, which at any given time, yesterday was a perfect example where we had, they stood up their emergency procedures. So we really do need a solution to this, because the other option is to put them in, arrest them for whatever, and that's approximately 24 hours, to make sure they are safe and not harming themselves or others. So anybody's got suggestions, I am all ears. 541-963-1001. Please, if you have anything, and it's one of those things, I don't think we can limit any answer at this point, because I think we're in such a bad way with how we deal with mental health. I do know CHD is instigated some new programs and getting a lot better at what they're doing, but it's still a lot of room for improvement, countywide, statewide, nationally. I don't think we're unique.
No. Like I said, I think Oregon's ahead of the bar when it comes to handling mental health and developmental disabilities, but we're still so far behind. It's right. Sad. I mean, it really is.
Well, hey, I want to throw my 2 bits in on that question that you asked. If you had an intern, what would kind of a life intern, what would be one of the most important things? And I think a leader being able to apologize for being wrong is, the monumental leaders in my life, and there's been some jerks, and there's been some people that I would follow into battle. And it's the ones that have the ability that I still see them learning from their own mistakes. That's the thing. They're still continuing to learn, and they're willing to say, hey, that maybe I didn't say the right thing, or, I snapped at you that day, being able to apologize. It's huge. So, all righty. Well, hey, let's leave Paul here. And once you give us the end stuff, Kyle, is on this day thing. Done? Yeah. Or Paul,
you're going to just throw me a change up like that?
Yeah.
Paul, you got anything else?
Thank you. That's really what I wanted to say. I appreciate the opportunity. Look forward to these conversations. I hope they're helpful to folks. Again, I've tried to be as accessible as possible. I know that, with restrictions over the last 2 years, maybe that hasn't been what it should have been. But 963-1001, be more than happy to visit with you. Thank you. Right.
On this day in 1775, which is before, I don't understand this one, but I'm going to say it anyways, because it doesn't even tell the company, but it's the first U.S. joint stock company. Like, it was a cloth company that offered shares at 10 cents a piece. I had to really scrounge for stuff on this day. Apparently it's not a real important day. In 1860, on this day, organized baseball was played for the first time in San Francisco between the Eagles and the Red Rovers. On 1909, on this day, 1909, February 22nd, the Great White Fleet, the first U.S. fleet to circle the globe, returned to Virginia. On this day in 1997, so we go from 1909 to 1997. See, there was 90 or 80, whatever, 8 years of nothing. Dolly the sheep, the world's first cloned mammal from an adult cell, is announced by the Roslin Institute in Scotland. And then on this day in 2017, because I'm leaving everything, quote, COVID out, we're not going past that, Jay-Z became the first rapper to be inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And a lot of people don't know that he wrote a lot of that stuff you heard at the Super Bowl, that Dre stuff, that was written by Jay-Z. A lot of people don't know that. He ghost wrote for a lot of the guys on the West Coast. He's an East Coast rapper. And a lot of people don't know that Jay-Z wrote Dre's part for Dre Day, like one of the number one hits of my, rap hits of my time. Let's see, what do we got? The number one song in the country, and we go to 1972. It's this guy, Nielsen, Without You. I don't even know who it is. I never heard of him before.
I'm gonna have to Google it.
And he was only on for 1 week, and it was this week. 1972, number one song in the country.
RCA Records.
And then my quote for the day: "We don't make mistakes, just happy little accidents." Bob Ross. That's my second Bob Ross quote of all time on here. I love that. We don't make mistakes, just happy little accidents.
Just happy accidents.
Happy little accidents.
happy. We're going to make a happy little cloud. Yeah. All right. Well, Paul, thanks for jumping in with us today.
Thank you. As always, appreciate it, and look forward to visiting with you again.
All right. Thank you, Eastern Oregon, for watching, and we'll see you Thursday. Yep.